to Looking for the Ocean, where we talk about everything Pixar ever made and what it means to us. I'm Danny Vincent, and as always, I'm joined by Mark Young. And let me tell you, sadly today we are not joined by Gerard Butler.
Why is that sad? Is he supposed to be here?
Because I googled, in the middle of this movie, I googled, does Planes have a post-credits scene? And the only thing that came out was stuff for Plane 2023.
Plane 2023. Oh, that's right.
Gerard
he was
Butler
in a movie. Yeah. Is that not Flight, but remade with Gerard Butler?
No, it's not Flight. Flight's I saw Flight this year, remember?
No, I know what Flight is, but I'm asking if Gerard Butler plays a Flight-esque character in Plane.
The plot of Plane is like, he's transporting like an ex-con or like an I've never seen it, and he has to team up. I don't think it's a terrorist. I think it's just an ex-convict. So then Gerard Butler, who's the pilot, has to team up with the convict to take down terrorists that took the rest of his passengers hostage. And Mike Coulter plays the convict.
So when a convict took his hostages?
He's like a criminal of some kind who he's transporting on the flight, but then unrelated terrorists shoot them down and take the rest of the plane hostage. I haven't seen the movie.
I just feel like it should be a terrorist on the plane who's taken the passengers hostage, and then they have to fight other terrorists.
Isn't that the Liam Neeson movie nonstop?
Oh, I don't even know.
Alright, I'm looking this up just out of curiosity.
Liam Neeson movie at some point.
Okay, so Mike Coulter plays Louis Gaspard, a former GCP French Foreign Legion passenger being extradited to Toronto on charges of homicide. Also, Tony Goldwyn is in this movie as a character named Scarsdale, which is a really great character name. Also, you should look at the plane page.
What happens next?
You should look at the plane page just to see, go to the cast part of it, and look at the picture of Gerard Butler they have there. It's really special. I don't know why they put that picture of all things there, but I can't complain.
You're gonna have to take a picture of this and send it in the chat, because I cannot find a picture of Gerard Butler.
Because you're on mobile, probably. All right, I'll send it to the chat, and you can put in the episode image too if you want, because it's a good one.
You. Gotta open up the text channel.
It's there. It's captioned lead actor and producer Gerard Butler next to the cast list. It's like, okay, great. Perfect.
Okay,
good job, Wikipedia.
Fun. Follow us on Instagram if you want to know what we're talking about.
Yep.
Because that's going in the collage. All right. Well, we're here for a very special film.
Yeah.
The sequel to Plane.
With an S. The first thing... Well, I don't know if that's not true. We've done plenty of detours. And I guess technically this episode is a detour. Like, this episode will be labeled a detour! There's one moment in this movie I really like that I can't wait to talk about. It's literally a cut. There's one cut in this movie I like. But...
Interesting.
Planes is a movie that is not made by Disney. It's made... Sorry, not made by Pixar. It's made by Disneytoon Studios. Which is really interesting to me because, as we already stated, Pixar Canada is active at this point, so there's really no reason not to give it to Pixar Canada. But so Disneytoon Studios made 44 total feature films from 1990 to 2015. The first film was DuckTales the movie, which I've seen once when I was a child, and then Tinkerbell: The Legend of the Never Beast was their last one, but they also just ended with that one anyway. You know, like that was their last thing, was Tinkerbell: Legend of the Never Beast. Technically, also, they weren't branded Disneytoon Studios until... I had it. The Lion King 1.5. That's when they got relabeled that, in 2004.
Yeah, didn't Disneytoon used to just be what was known as Walt Disney Animation? Is that the one that has the giant Wikipedia page? Or has this always been a
No, Walt Disney Animation Studios is always Walt Disney Animation Studios. They've been around since Snow White. Disneytoon is what they established to make direct-to-video movies. Now, I'm trying to see, because I'm pretty sure, you know, I'll tell you their theatrical movies right now, because this is one of them. Their theatrical movies up to this point, one of these is a masterpiece. It's going to be pretty obvious which one. They made DuckTales for theaters. They made a Goofy movie for theaters. They made Return to Neverland, which is Peter Pan 2, for theaters. They made The Jungle Book 2 and Piglet's Big Movie for theaters. Wait, was the Tigger movie not them? That's so interesting. I wonder who made the Tigger movie. Pooh's Heffalump movie, and I believe that was it for U.S. theatrical release until Planes. Because the Tinkerbell movies did not get U.S. theatrical releases.
And I assume that the masterpiece you're talking about is the Goofy movie.
Yes! Excellent movie.
Cool. I didn't know if you were a fan of Piglet's Big Adventure, which I feel like I heard was all right, but I never saw it myself. But I also know that people love the Goofy movie.
The Tigger movie is like the cream of the crop of the Winnie the Pooh not live action, the Winnie the Pooh like Disney put out in theaters just because it was Pooh and they could make money. Okay, so the Tigger movie was made actually by the television animation department, which is a separate studio, which makes sense because at the time they were wrapping up their Winnie the Pooh TV show, you know, so they had all the assets ready. But now I'm curious, what theatrical films did they do? Okay, well, apparently they shared it with apparently Goofy Movie and DuckTales they shared production stuff on, and Return to Neverland. Apparently Disneytoon worked, like they all worked together on them. So
gotcha.
But it's not listed under Disneytoon as Tigger movie.
Anyway, we are here to talk about planes.
I wish I knew the song that plays at the end of this. It feels like 100% like.
Didn't this feel like Cars 2 to you?
I will get to that, but first we have to continue doing briefing. The movie cost $50 million to make $240 million worldwide. Initially, it was supposed to be a direct-to-video, but then they put it out in theaters, probably because of the cast they assembled, I have to assume. Because the only Tinkerbell movie, if I remember right, that has like a big cast is whichever one Tom Hiddleston's in. The rest of them are very like whatever. Movie did, okay. Obviously, they were going to still put out the sequel because the sequel was already in development. The movie has a 25% on Rotten Tomatoes. So there you go. John Cryer was announced for the movie, but then he was replaced with Dane Cook, which I remembered hearing about at the time. But
yeah, I kind of think it would be weird if you didn't have someone like Dane Cook in this role. Not because I actually think John Cryer might have been a more interesting choice, but it's hard to imagine someone who's not just a Chad in the role of whatever his name is. Dusty Crophopper.
I will say this about Dane Cook. As someone who's fascinated by like billing, I thought it was really interesting in the credits.
Oh my gosh,
his name appeared, and then the casting director appeared, and then the scroll happened, and I was like, okay, that's bizarre.
What did this mean?
Like, that was more what fascinated me, was like, it was him, another random credit, and then the scroll began. It wasn't like the title Planes appeared again, or like a Disneytoon studio production. It was weird. I was very confused.
And that's kind of one of the draws of Planes, is that it has this stacked voice cast for some reason. And I guess a lot of animated films do. Like Norm of the North had a lot of known people in it. And a lot of these direct-to-DVD animated movies seem to have a really good voice cast. But I'm just surprised. I guess I haven't seen a lot of them, but I really thought they would be credited before the scrolling credits. Like Julia Louis-Dreyfus and John Cleese and Priyanka Chopra on her Hollywood debut.
Is this actually her debut in Hollywood?
It is.
Wow, that's sad. Because I was watching, when she showed up, I was like, great, Priyanka Chopra. I actually really like her. And then, the movie was the movie.
What would you recommend seeing her in? Because I really don't know her work, but I know her name.
I remember, I'd have to look, like, really through her credits to, like, name her stuff. She's really just someone who I more like as a guest star. If like, when she pops up in a comedy for a bit. She was good in Isn't It Romantic, which isn't a great movie, but it is, like, a fun watch. She's one of those people, though, who, is... Oh, and, you've seen her in a movie. You saw her in, The Matrix Resurrections.
Yeah, but I just feel like there's, some Indian movie that made her a star or something that I haven't seen, and I wonder
she's apparently in... Oh, it looks like she's a cameo in Om Shanti Om, which is a movie that's always on my watch list, because everyone tells me that movie's fantastic. I was going to say, American-wise, or actually more British-wise, I believe this is a British film. She was in The White Tiger a couple years ago, and I thought she was good in that, which was like one of those movies that got a lot of awards buzz because it came out during the COVID year. Whereas otherwise, it would have kind of been, thrown aside pretty quickly. But since it was the COVID year, people were like, oh, yes, this is a good movie. And it was a good movie. It just wasn't what you would normally, nominate for, a ton of stuff.
Om Shanti Om has Willy Wonka font.
Have you never seen the Om Shanti Om poster?
I didn't know it existed. I'm really not super versed in it, but it looks very fun. Anyway, we have to talk about Planes.
Yeah. Well, okay, so what were you going to say about Planes before I cut you off and I was finishing up the, intro stuff? Because you were going to say something. I cut you off.
Was I saying something on mic, or was it...
No, you said it on mic, and then I was like, stop, let me finish my stuff.
I don't remember what I was saying. Can I say what I said off mic, and maybe it'll spark something?
Sure.
Actually, I'm not going to say what I said off mic, because it was really mean. So, I guess we're just going to talk about planes. You know what I'm excited for about planes? It explains who Stacy Keach is, because we talked about him all through Air Mater, and then we had a whole episode, chunk of it, where we had no idea who Stacy Keach was, and now he's back, and I'm so excited. that was my favorite part of Planes, is seeing that he was. I'm like, the guy.
Here's my thoughts on Planes. First off, first I'll give my general take, which is this was better than I thought it'd be. That doesn't make it a good movie. That makes it a 2 out of 5 movie. You know, like, it's still pretty mediocre. It exists to entertain a child. There's no attempt here ever to, like, entertain someone above the age of 12. But, like, it is, to me, it was watchable. You know, and part of that was because I've never seen it before. That was really more, it was like, oh, I've never seen this before. So, I am not totally bored throughout. Oh, I remember what you said. You said this was like Cars 2. And I think that's an interesting point to make, because I had that thought too, where this is the one thing I think, okay, first I'm going to say I like this about it, but I also think it's a complete misunderstanding of what a Planes movie should be. I think it's interesting to have like a movie set in the Cars universe that is wholly about one race. I think that is like a very cool idea that the other movies never really took advantage of. And, you know, it's a good, like, people will be like, this is formulaic, it's a general sports movie, but you know what? Sports movies are good, and I like them. Like, Creed 3 came out this year, we both like Creed 3 a lot, and that follows all the formulas. However, I think the movie is very misguided, not only just in, like, the premise.
You meant one race as in one sporting event.
Yes.
I thought you meant one race as in this should just be a movie about cars or planes.
No.
Okay. I was so like, huh, all right. But anyway, what you were saying.
I think, first off, conceptually a Planes movie, right? I'm told, I'm working at Disneytoon Studios, and I get the assignment from above saying, we want to make a direct-to-video movie set in the world of cars, but about planes. And my first response would be, you know, let's sit down. Well, first off, I'm going to give everyone here the benefit of the doubt, which I think is the correct thing to do with a movie like this, where, you know, if I'm being tasked with, like, making Bambi 2, right, I'm not going to be like, this is a ridiculous idea, because you can't push back from the studio head saying you have to make Bambi 2, right? I'm just saying, like, this is what these guys' like job is like, get a very dumb idea and be like, you have to try to make it work. No matter what, we're gonna make this movie, so figure it out. So I would be like, all right, let's think about this for a bit. What can we do with planes that isn't with cars? Knowing that we have a sequel planned about wildfires, or like about rescue planes. And the thing I think of first is we can't do a race movie, because there's no such thing as like people crowding around their TVs watching races about planes. The answer to me would be find a way to make a movie centered around the idea of actually, and this is where I'm going to give Pixar credit, even though I shouldn't because I don't like this short, Air Mater is more what a Planes movie should be. Because that's a movie about Mater joining a trick team. Because that's what you think about with Planes, is air and space show, cool tricks. That's what this movie should be about, is like a crop duster wanting to become a trick person. And like, they did an extremely goofy movie at Disneytoons. They know what the X Games are. They should do something that's riffing off the X Games, but with planes. That is like the obvious route to go, which would make it a better thing for what it's about, if that makes sense. Like, you know, if you want to make something that's... Yeah. Instead, this is a race movie about World War II at points, and also, I hate, because I feel like I need to stop referring to it as, it's a sports movie, right? I should need to stop saying a race movie, because I do think this movie is very racist. I think this movie has the same stereotypes that Cars 2 traffics in to a much larger degree. And it's very uncomfortable at points, this movie. And not only the racist stuff too, but like the bit where it's like, here's a World War II flashback where it's like, hey officer, let's go after this one boat.
They're called a boat.
I don't think that's a good idea. Come on, let's do it. Oh, okay. It's the entire fleet. Oh no!
And they show that. They show a scene in the film where Stacy Keach's plane is taking all of these rookies across the sea, whatever, on some recon mission, and then they see enemy boats, and then they show them engaging with the boats and being shot out of the air, which is a higher body count than Cars 2, I think.
Well, it's not only that. I think this is something I noticed because I, for some reason, checked out the DVD from the library, even though it's on Disney Plus. Don't ask me why. It's because I like having a physical. You know what? I'll answer anyway. I like having a physical copy reminding me I need to watch something. So that's why I checked it out from the library, and I'll return it.
That's fine. I think you probably get way better features along with a physical release, if that's something you're interested
well, in this case, all the features are actually on Disney Plus under the extras because it's planes, so no one really cares. But for Ratatouille, for example, yeah, I was actually looking at my... Actually, side tangent about physical media. I pulled out last night after I watched a movie for the Snub Club, because this is a little behind the scenes of my Letterboxd. I don't like logging the movies on Letterboxd until the episode goes up, because Letterboxd does not have it show up in your feed unless it's your first time log. Ergo, after I watch a movie for a podcast, I don't really like to watch anything that big, because I'm very anal about, like, I watched this movie at this point on this day, so this should be before that, and Letterboxd doesn't let you rearrange it by the day. It's just the day you put it, the latest you logged it, that's the latest they assume, basically. So my point is, I pulled out some stuff that's on Letterboxd as featurettes to watch after I watched that yesterday, and I pulled out my old John Wick set of John Wick 1, and I was incredibly impressed by the BTS on the first John Wick movie, in a way that I'm never really, like, impressed by BTS these days, because, first off, they have a cast interview okay? Like, thing where it's like, here's the cast of John Wick. But they very smartly do not interview Ian McShane. They don't interview Lance Reddick. It's Keanu's there, but then everyone else is everyone who's only in the first John Wick movie. And there's John Leguizamo there, too, who isn't into a lot. And it's just like...
Isn't Ian McShane in the first John Wick?
No, he is. My point is, they are smartly only talking to the people who are only in John Wick 1.
Oh,
with the exception of John Leguizamo and Keanu Reeves. And John Leguizamo, I stick by, doesn't have that big of a role in 2 anyway. So it's like...
Gotcha.
It's focusing on... And this was in 2014 too, so it's not like they were thinking ahead. But I'm like, I like that this is something that's like, we think people are going to be excited about Adrienne Palicki in this movie. And no one remembers her in that movie. And it's like, oh, we were so excited to get her. And I also was like, we're talking to Willem Dafoe. And it's like bits where it's like, I had the idea... where I wanted my character to be making a shake when he gets the call about John Wick, because he's older, so he'd be making a protein shake. And I'm like, these are such cool tidbits. People would never think to ask about this movie. And at the time, no one thought John Wick was going to be a big deal, so it's really, like, special we have this.
Yeah. I love that. That's what I remember about the rewatch of John Wick I had about a month ago, is that he's making that shake. It's such a great softening character detail.
Yeah, and the whole thing's like about like they're interviewing all these actors. Like, here's where I found the character. And I'm like, I like that they're treating this seriously. Because again, in 2014, no one thought John Wick was going to be a big deal. Like, no one really...
that's...
So it's like, this is like important.
Why it became a big deal.
Well, and then it's like also they have interviews with Michael Nick... I can never pronounce his last name. But,
Nyqvist?
Yeah, I like that there's also a moment in the movie, in the doc, where they talk to the directors, and they're like, we watched his American films before casting. We were like, he doesn't really get a chance to do a big monologue ever in these movies. And I was thinking about our Mission Impossible thing, because I was just like, you can tell they're like shading his Mission Impossible role when they say that. Where it's like, he's had these big roles, but he hasn't done a lot.
And then I think we also, maybe it was us, or maybe I heard this on some other podcast, we talked about on mic how the coolest part of John Wick is how much the other characters talk about him before we get to see him do his thing. Very cool.
Yeah, and then it's just, I recommend the John Wick Blu-ray if you ever want to learn about him. It actually does have a lot of good features. Planes does not. But also, although I did notice, and this is on Disney Plus too, which is another reason why I was like, there is like a 15-minute bonus feature about the director's journey making this movie. So they did give you a bonus feature, which is more than a lot of things this time, you know, nowadays to get. But
one thing
go. I was
I'm just thinking of different things from the movie that jumped out at me, so I might be jumping around a little bit.
I thought Sinbad was good.
Can you tell me who he played? Because I am having a hard time working back from the credits on Wikipedia to determine who played who.
Played the forklift who, like, is in charge of the race, like, the qualifier round. And he pops up and they're like, he's like, can I have, this guy, I forget his fake name. I don't know. I just thought it was a good voice acting performance compared to a lot of the other people in this.
Well, I actually think people really went for it, but I feel like they're not connected to each other, and I feel like Brad Garrett especially goes for it and just doesn't have much to work with.
I enjoyed Brad Garrett in this, though. To me, he was giving me, like, we have made... everything in this movie is like, we have cars at home, right? But, like, we have Mater at home, but I thought he was very endearing comic relief. And I was down for it. I was like, cool. Like, also he did that thing where I mentioned it in our last Cars episode, where Luigi is cool because he has an appendage, and usually you only see that in the forklift characters. And I liked his little gas tank. I liked that he used it as a hand.
I just mean he has scenes like the time when Sinbad comes to the farm or wherever they are, and he's asking for Jetstream, which is Chunky Crop Fuckers. What's his name?
His name is Dusty. Dusty Crop Hopper. I was gonna say Dusty Crop Duster, and I was like, that's not it.
Dusty Crop Duster, and he's asking for him as his racer alias, Strut Jetstream. And Brad Garrett's character, who says in the previous scene that he helped him come up with that name, has no idea who Sinbad is talking about.
Oh, I took that as like he was bidding. I took that as like it was a bit where he's like, "Who are you coming here for?" type of thing. You know, I don't know. I guess your interpretation's probably more right. But
it just seems like they wrote that for a different character, like the guy with glasses who is also on the farm, but they don't really do anything with him. He has half a scene where he's just talking with someone else about plane specs. I really think that scene should have been for him. I don't know, where it was originally intended.
I found a lot of this film infuriatingly, like, I don't know, it just felt so, like, logically failing on so many easy levels where we don't learn until 25 minutes into the movie that he's afraid of heights. Even though that feels like it should be like something that comes up way sooner. And also, he doesn't have the realization until like when does it get mentioned? I think it's mentioned on the like Pacific Ocean like leg of it, where it's like if you go above the clouds, you're not gonna deal with the storms. Even though, like, they're like, if you're in Iceland, right? When they're in Iceland, they're like, if you don't fly so low, you won't get ice in your system. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's raining. That's the problem. He's below the rain. Like, that's.
Well, they mentioned that in the scene where he reveals his fear of heights. That's revealed pretty early by Stacy Keach's character, who is the mentor of Dusty Crop Hopper. But I don't know if I understand your concern about that, because I feel like they plant that pretty early. It is weird that it takes him so long to apply it, but I don't know. I forget why he has this moment of, I'm going to use what I've learned and survive,
Well, he needs to win. I also gotta say, I always annoyed he won. I always get annoyed at stuff like this where, like, the person wins. And the reason I say that is, it's a lot more compelling to me. It's like, we're talking about tropes here. Where it's like, he meets the girlfriend character, because that is all she exists to be, is Priyanka Chopra, is to be a girlfriend character. And she goes, this is going to finally be the year I win. And it's like, great, I hope you win, and he gets second, and then the other guy gets third. Like, that will be the happiest ending to me. And then it's like, nah, she got like 5th place. And it's like, and they're like, yay, Dusty. And I'm like, what happened to your own agency? Like,
it's so funny that you call her the girlfriend character, because after watching 5 Minutes of Planes, I thought, all right, I get how this movie works. There's going to be a girlfriend character. And then you hear Terry Hatcher's voice as Dottie, the forklift mechanic, before you see her. And I had that thought of like, yes.
She's got that Mommy Hunt vibe,
But then you see her, and I'm like, all right, it's girl scientist time.
She... I like that the only bit she has is that she says things technically, and everyone is always confused, including when, like, she's at, like, the race, and everyone at the race besides the bad guys team is basically giving Dusty stuff, and then she says something, and everyone's like, what did you say? I'm like, what are you talking about? There's other pit crew there. They should know what she's saying.
Yeah, and you gave her all this technical equipment.
Wouldn't it be better for her to meet, like, a like-minded pit crew person? And, like, you just have a scene where she, like, you pair her away with, like, a one-line person? I'm just saying,
What?
trope-wise.
I don't know if I... What?
So, in the scene where Dusty's about to leave the race after the harrowing flashback of World War II, everyone shows up to give him like a part, right? Besides the bad guys team. And she says something that everyone there is like, what did she just say? Like, because that's the joke that she says things so technically. And I'm like, there's some other pit crew there. Wouldn't it make more sense for it just be like a joke where there's like one other person gets what she's saying and then she's in love with that person? Like, I'm just saying, like, as a stock joke. Because this movie is full of stock jokes.
The thing is, they do that joke 10 times or more in this movie, and it's with Brad Garrett and any other character. They have this recurring bit in the film where two characters will talk about plane specs as geeks for a very long time. And it happens over and over.
I know there's definitely one where I was just like in shock that like, I was like, all right, when's this bit gonna end? And then it just kept going like another 10 seconds. And then when it ended, it was just Dave Keach saying, all right. And like, it was basically just that. Like, he didn't even make a joke. It was just like, okay. Like,
they did the same thing when Sinbad is seeing Dusty Hopper for the first time. And I think he's just saying all these things about how dumb he looks. And he has a little statement about, man, this is the dumbest plane I've ever seen. And then he says like 3 other things, which are other small jokes, which should be the stinger for the shot, but they keep all of them in.
Hey, you get the improv in
there's
it.
Like,
you're gonna keep
there's
it
like
all.
a pause after every one. Man,
I just think. All right, wait. Do you want to know? Do you want to know what my favorite moment of this movie was?
Oh yeah. Yeah. You said you had one.
It's a cut. It's when Dusty Hopper is going through the tunnel in the Himalayas, and he like is about to hit a train, and it just cuts to white, and they play with you thinking like he's gone to car heaven, which also feels vaguely racist to me. The way they portray it, because it's like he's in Shangri-La, and like they all have thick accents there.
I mean, the people of Nepal have accents, and I don't know he goes to Shangri-La? What?
I think that's what the vibe is supposed to be, because it's like all painted in like, it's all has like that camera bloom on it, where it's like, and he's like, am I alive? He's like, no, you're just here first, you know? Like, that's what he says. So I do think it's supposed to be played like he went to heaven. And I do think it's like supposed to be like Shangri-La, because that's like Nepal. You know what I mean? Like, it's the stereotype of Nepal.
Well, Shangri-La is a fictional place in Tibet.
Okay, so... but it's the leg is like from whatever, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like I'm talking from what I believe the view at Disney for these stereotypes are, which probably isn't the right way to talk, but I got the Shangri-La vibe from the way it was framed and bloomed. Anyway, my point is more though the cut to white where you think he might have died is really good.
Yeah. It's funny, the other time they cut is in the very beginning after he's daydreaming, and then they don't do any kind of transition to get him out of... He daydreams that he's flying with the fighter pilots from Top Gun, like played by the actual voice of the actual actors who were in Top Gun, and then it cuts, and then he's just dusting crops. But they don't do a transition like having his friend fly into frame and then going like, what are you doing here, huh? Or you pay attention to your crop dusting. It just cuts to white, and then
they want to put in a video of Brad Garrett, make a whole new character model of him just flying in.
Actually, I was thinking of his plane friend, but I think if you led with Brad Garrett flying, who is a truck, I think that would actually be a fantastic opening for the movie. Speaking of the opening of the movie, it starts with a little logo that says World of Cars, and not from the World of Cars.
Well, okay, because I don't know if this is the time to talk about it. This was planned to be, it wasn't just going to be planes. There was one I talked about before where I'm just so fascinated. I would love for a whole like lost media like storyboard version of Metro to come out, where it's about Metro trains. I'm like, how do you make that movie and have it not be miserable? That these trains are stuck on tracks, always going to the same location.
Oh my gosh, I feel like there's a really pretty clear short about office life in the big city.
But this was going to be a movie. This was going to be a movie. I want to know how that was going to be a movie.
Well, yeah, I don't know about
I believe there was also a boat one, too. Oh, and actually, I actually do remember this. I wish I could add the info up. Maybe I'll have it up for our next episode, and I can actually read about it. But I remember at one of the D23s, they announced something where it was like after Planes 1 and 2, and everyone thought it was over. And it was like from above the world of cars. And it was like going to be about, and you thought it was going to be planes, but then it was about rockets. And it was like, ooh, it's like space cars type of thing. But then I think they closed his... I'm sure that will actually be on like the Planes 2 thing, because it'll be listed as like canceled sequel, you know, but on the wiki page. But yeah, I remember, you know, hearing about that, and I was like, oh, that sounds... Like, it would have been cool, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, okay, actually, I just looked up. It was called Beyond the Sky. And it was called Planes Beyond the Sky, so I guess it was supposed to be something. It was supposed to be released in April 2019, and it was canceled. Well, it was removed from the schedule beforehand, but it sounds like to me, judging off this actually... Alright. Okay, I just read it all. It was released on April 2019, removed from the schedule in March 2018, and then on June 28th, 2018, as soon as Lasseter was kicked out of Disney and Pixar, officially, finally... Because if you remember those allegations hit when Coco came out in November 2017, Disneytoon Studios was immediately shut down following Lasseter leaving. Ergo, I gotta assume he kind of like soft left before then, because remember as I said, the Coco story, the Lasseter story broke before March 2018. I feel like he was probably the one pushing for that to like happen.
So about the voice cast.
Yes.
I don't know. I was pretty all right with them, and I feel like they had high energy throughout.
So like Sonic.
Sonic.
Roger Craig Smith, who plays the bad guy, is Sonic.
Oh, I thought he was the guy from Resident Evil. Is he also Sonic?
He's Sonic, though. Yeah, he is in Resident Evil, but I know more because he's been Sonic, with the exception of, you know, the movies. It says on Wikipedia since 2010, but, you know, that's like in every form of animation besides the movies. He's always Sonic.
Oh.
So that's what I recognize his name as. Like, oh, he's Sonic. And he's like Sonic in the Wreck-It Ralph movies. That's also what I remember. Now that Sonic has a big role in those. But he's also Sonic in the games. That's why he's in the Wreck-It Ralph movies as Sonic. But, I thought this was interesting how, like, the cast is very full of voice actors. Because Roger Craig Smith, Carlos...
A lot of voice actors in this animated film.
Yeah, which is always good to see a lot of voice actors get work. Brad Garrett also kind of qualifies as a voice actor, in my opinion, even though he's also famous. But he, like, has a very... He's like Mark Hamill, you know? Where if Mark Hamill shows up in something, I'm not like... like a voice role. I'm not like, Luke Skywalker's here. I'm like, oh, cool, Mark Hamill's in this, you know?
Yeah. I'm always excited to meet new people because, of course, if you watch Pixar and then you dig deep, you get into all of these people who are alternative comedians from around the world. That Carr, that's a fan of Dusty, is a very well-known German comedian who did the German dub of Mystery Science Theater.
Oh, interesting.
And he was the voice of Tom Servo in Germany. And apparently that's like his deal. He does a Mystery Science Theater-esque thing, or he's done things like that for a while.
I was going to say about him, that character. I thought that character was very interesting. The Carr with a split personality because he can turn into a plane.
Oh, yeah. I didn't really get that.
I didn't understand the humor either.
Yeah, I didn't know if it was a real thing until I looked it up. I thought that they were fanboys of him, and so they were dressing up like him. I had to look up that it was an actual car that was made to be a plane.
I don't know. This movie isn't great. There's really not a lot here. It is 90 minutes of a race, which, as I said, I understand the appeal of it for this franchise to do something where it's like, yes, the entire thing actually is a sports movie. But then you watch it and you're like, the entire thing is a sports movie. Okay, that's all. Yeah. That's what you got for me? I actually think it's really weird also. I feel like, I'm curious, I'm going to actually look this really quick. Was Veep on at this point? I guess Veep had just got on the air. Because I feel like Julia Louis-Dreyfus is weirdly too big for this, if that makes sense.
I think so too. Yeah, Veep started the year before.
Okay, so Veep wasn't like a huge thing yet, though, because things always take like a season or so to like get big.
I mean, I think everyone's too big for this, but that's the way it is with these direct-to-video voice performances. It's all these big stars.
Is it? Because I think of like
How many times has David Spade been in the credits of some animated thing? And you think like, oh my, well, I know who David Spade is.
Well, now I'm looking up David Spade because I actually don't think he's been in a lot. If I remember right, he didn't voice Cusco on the TV show, which I always think point as like, that's so weird. Why wouldn't you take that gig? But
well, it's also like Tom Kenny being in the good Pinocchio and also the bad Pinocchio, and also the bad Pinocchio had Pauly Shore in it, and that's a name like, I know who Pauly Shore is.
Wasn't Tom Kenny also in the Zemeckis Pinocchio?
He keeps at it. I don't know if he was in the Zemeckis Pinocchio actually.
Well, what I'm trying to look up now, maybe it'll be easier if I just look up this movie instead of going, okay, yeah. He was in Kronk's New Groove. Okay, that's what I thought. Well, you know what I think about, though, is like, do you remember the Aladdin sequel, right?
I never saw it, but I know what you mean.
The Return to Jafar with
The Return
Dan
of Jafar.
Castellaneta. I always butcher his name. The guy from The Simpsons movie.
Yeah.
See our episode on The Simpsons movie. He has that as a genie, and then like Robin Williams comes back for the third one. It's like Robin Williams is back, and that was like the entire selling point of the third one was we got Robin Williams back somehow. But like I don't know, I don't think they usually do go for big. I remember Bambi 2 was famous because they marketed like Patrick Stewart. We have as Bambi's dad, but they didn't have like anyone else. This is
exactly what I mean.
But they didn't have anyone else. Is my point. They spent all their money on Patrick Stewart.
I feel like. Things have people like Heather Graham in them, and, well, Heather Graham is another person who is in Norm of the North. Norm of the North is a really good example of what I'm talking about. I feel like I'm correct, but it's hard for me to list every single direct-to-video animated film. I felt like David Spade gave the right vibes for what I was talking about. And actually, Tom Kenny's a bad example, because Tom Kenny is a capital V voice actor. I don't know, he's also a good... Tom Kenny's just a good actor.
Well, I was going to talk about Disney and jump off of that and then say some stuff.
Yeah, go for it.
So, earlier this year, there was a new Little Mermaid movie that came out. And to prep for it, I decided to rewatch a film I had not seen since I was a child, which was The Little... I wanted to say it really quick, and I completely stumbled over myself. I rewatched The Little Mermaid 2, Return to the Sea, where... everyone returned from the original cast, including Ursula, but they didn't get anyone new big for it. In fact, actually, what throws me off about Wikipedia, which I'll just say now, is that it's just so weird to me. It includes Tara Strong maiden name under the list of her in the cast list, where it just really throws me off. I'm like, who's Taryn Cherendoff? And then I look, oh, it's Tara Strong. Then that makes more sense. Because Tara Strong, if listeners don't know, and they should, because this is an animation podcast, Tara Strong is probably like, it's her, Grey DeLisle. Trying to think who else is like the most prolific voice actors who are like Grey DeLisle. I just had someone in my head. Phil Lamar. I was trying to think like who are like the most prolific voice actors. Those are definitely some of them.
Well, and especially known for their work in children's television, unlike Mark Hamill and maybe Tom Kenny, who have a little more spread.
I was gonna say also, I see in this cast Rob Paulsen is definitely up there too among like big voice actors. Or who's the other one from Peaky in the Brain? Maurice LaMarche, I think. My point is, I watched this Disneytoon thing, and I think what's interesting, and we could talk about this also with Planes too, but I think now could be an interesting time to talk about like their work in general. I think that is, like, what are we going to talk about? I'm not talking about, the Goofy movie. I'm talking about, like, what's your experience with, like, something like this when you were a kid? You know what I mean? Not like Planes, because none of us have experience with Planes.
What do you mean?
I mean, like, the direct-to-video Disney stuff. I'm sure you watched some.
Oh, yeah, I have. I'd have to think. Hold on, let me look up the list of direct-to-video Disney things.
Well, I open up the Disneytoon Studios list, because it's, like, Return to Jafar, Aladdin King of Thieves... the Pooh movies also qualify, like Pooh's Grand Adventure, Beauty and the Beast Christmas, Pocahontas 2, which I've never seen, The Lion King 2, which is a classic. Not really, but like I'm sure that's a movie I don't want to revisit because I feel like it's gonna fall apart.
Okay, here's a movie that I really remember watching a lot as a kid was The Lion King 1.5, which is the one where Timon and Pumbaa talk about The Lion King as it's happening, and we get to see it from their perspective. I remember loving that movie. Another one which might not hold up very well, but really something that was special to me, I think. And I wonder, I watched a lot of these kinds of things as a kid. I remember watching this and also Mystery Science Theater 3000, which is a similar vibe. I wonder if that's connected, but I'm not sure. You made a face when I said the Lion King.
No. I was gonna say like Lion King 1.5 is interesting to me because this is one of those ones where like I remember watching and loving it as a kid, and it's definitely one of those things where I point to that as like one of those things that you probably don't value like as a child and probably going to value much as now, but it probably is one of the, because I didn't watch Mystery Science Theater 2000. I do think it introduced me to like that specific brand of anarchic commentary humor, which I think is really interesting. But I was more of a Lion King 2 kid anyway. The Lion King 2 is better.
I've never seen The Lion King 2.
The Lion King 2 is about Scar's
better
secret
than Lion King
son.
1?
It's about Scar's secret son. It's Romeo and Juliet. Although they're kind of related, I guess. Or maybe it's like Scar's sister, so it's like they're not actually related. I don't know. I should look at this because they end up to like Simba's daughter ends up with Scar's son, and I feel like that's a little weird, and I'm unsure if that's actually like how it worked. I should look at how Kovu is related. But Kovu
sounds like the Way of Water.
Kovu was okay. So I guess Zira's Kovu's mom, and apparently like Zira was like the leader of Scar's people who was gonna like Scar's friends, and it's just implied it's their kid, but they don't actually say it because it'd be kind of weird and messed up that they end up together.
But isn't it obvious that he's his kid? He's never like, oh, but well, I never knew my father, and then the other lions are like, well, we knew your father, and he's got to deal with that. I think
it's heavily implied. He gets like a matching scar, but I don't think they ever say it because they don't want to like acknowledge like the incest of it all.
Is it incest? Well, I guess so.
I mean, yeah, because Scar is Simba's uncle, so ergo his son shouldn't marry Simba's daughter.
Well, I'm also
they're lions, so I'm sure this happens in real life anyway because they're lions. You know what I'm sure it's not something lions are concerned about.
For some reason, the harem that James Earl Jones has in The Lion King has just kind of prepped me for this reality.
I want to point out they did bring back everyone for this, with the exception of well, maybe not everyone. Now that I'm looking at this, no, they did bring back everyone with the exception of Jeremy Irons for this.
Oh no!
They also brought on Andy Dick and Neve Campbell. What?
Who did Andy Dick play?
The older brother of Kovu who dies dramatically.
Oh no! I wonder what it was like to know Andy Dick before you knew Andy Dick like we knew Andy Dick. I have no information about Andy Dick except the post Andy Dick being Andy Dick things. Yeah.
Neve Campbell played Simba's daughter. That seems like a big get.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially because this was like around the time of Scream, I think, right? 97? Yeah. And Lion King 2 is 98, so yeah, she would have been a big get. It's a big deal. Big deal.
Yeah. Should I watch... Oh, is it on Disney?
Yeah, Lion King 2 is good. I actually Lion King 2 I remember liking. Everything I remember looking at this is Lilo and Stitch and its bizarre extended universe. I can assume this happened. I just think it's so weird. So Lilo and Stitch, has the follow-up TV show, and I've already explained my conspiracy theory about that here. But it has the follow-up TV show that has a pilot movie called Stitch the Movie. But then there's another sequel that's made by Disneytoon, because I can assume that Disney, the television department made the pilot movie and the finale movie for Lilo and Stitch the show. But then Disneytoon also has their sequel called Stitch Has a Glitch, where it's like, it was just confusing me as a child, like, why was there another sequel that did not take, the show as canon?
Yes.
They also...
No, not really, because I was never big into the Lilo and Stitch extra media.
Come on.
I think I like Lilo and Stitch more as an adult than I did when I watched it as a kid.
I love Lilo and Stitch as a kid. One of these days I have to see Cinderella 3. Everyone tells me Cinderella 3 is like a masterpiece.
They made the Atlantis Milo's Return.
I don't like Atlantis.
Disneytoons. You don't like Atlantis?
Yeah, I don't like Atlantis. It's a bad movie.
I'm gonna straight up be like, you're wrong.
Well,
explain yourself.
Wrong. Why would I explain? I didn't grow up with it, and it sucks.
This is simply not the case.
It sucks. It's pretty bad.
What do you mean?
First time during the pandemic. What do you mean? What do I mean? It's got some cool animation. Treasure Planet does that style better, though. It's one of those things where like the main character's just annoying, and then he gets the girl because he happens to be there.
Fair. I will say that Atlantis and Treasure Planet have their issues. I feel like Atlantis comes out on top, though.
It legitimately always cracks me up when someone tweets or posts on Facebook. It's like one of those one of those ads, those targeted ads that are like from like a big Facebook group where it's like, where's this Disney princess? And it's like a Photoshop of Tom Holland and Zendaya as the leads in Atlantis. And I'm always like, they're not going to make that remake because it was a bomb. And also, she's not a Disney princess because she doesn't do anything in the movie.
Yeah. Another thing that, like, of course, everyone wants another shot at it, just like John Carter. And not only will it not happen because it was a box office bomb, but it's funny that we're talking about this because I was just reading about Atlantis a few days ago. And it is one of those things where you're like, oh, I can imagine this character as this character and this is this, but how on earth could you really convey everything with CGI without it seeming kind of hokey? I think Treasure Planet has the same issue. Everyone wants a new Treasure Planet, but you're never going to make it look as good as
I think the answer for Treasure Planet, I think Treasure Planet has more viability. Personally, I don't think you should remake it in live action or anything, but I think like a Disney Plus cartoon, like how Tron got a cartoon, would be like viable. I think that has more of a cult classic standing. Personally, I also think, I don't know, to me, Space Pirates entices me more than we all went to Atlantis and we all got back okay. And it's like, all right,
yeah,
that's the story.
It's a perfect little adventure movie.
But I don't know, Treasure Planet, man, Treasure Planet.
Name Sweet Joshua Sweet Ship Surgeon, ridiculous.
I ever tell you for that game I played, there was someone who made Treasure Planet into like a movie, like a live action remake, and it did well enough that they could make a sequel. And the sequel, like, I should look it up so I can give you like the full like story of it. But the sequel just had like, it became a meme because there was one scene in it where there was like a huge like fight of like just pirate ships, and then just out of nowhere like a battleship shows up, and again they're in space, and the writer never conveyed like what makes a battleship different from the pirate ships, and it just kind of got everyone confused. And it just became a meme where people were like, and then battleships showed up in the game.
You know, now that I'm looking at this list of Disneytoons, I think the biggest influence they had on my life as a young person was watching the trailers. Because I don't know why I never sought these out. I never watched
Baby 2, but I saw the commercial.
Yeah, you're aware of all of these things purely through trailers. So a lot of the vibe of Atlantis to me actually, Planet Atlantis and other things to me actually comes through the trailer. And Atlantis had really spooky trailers. It was really cool. I have this weird fear of open water that Atlantis, the trailer, tapped into in a way that the movie doesn't explore, because the movie's just about people. That's right. Atlantis is about the characters. But then also things like Return to Jafar. I have a picture of this movie in my mind, even though I haven't seen it.
That movie's really interesting it's a pilot movie for the show, which makes sense, but it also has a very bizarre conceptual idea where people are like, why don't they just, because the Will Smith Aladdin did pretty well, and people were like, why don't they just adapt Return to Jafar as a sequel? And they made Maleficent 2 and they didn't have source material, and it's like, well, because Return to Jafar, if you watch it, it's a movie about Iago, which is like not what you can really center. It's a very weird choice, and it's only there so that way they could give Gilbert Gottfried like a regular like hero role on the show, which is fine for a pilot movie of a TV show, but if you're trying to actually sequelize Aladdin, it's kind of a failure. I've ever told you like about that traumatic episode of Aladdin, the show that I had on VHS that traumatized me as a kid? No. It's one of the most romantic things I've ever seen. So I should look it up. No, I want to make sure I get this right, because I'm sure I remember what the episode was about. So if I just go to list of Aladdin episodes, I'll find it pretty quickly. Let me search Cobra, because it's about a snake. Episode 58, or actually 67, it's 58 of season 2. Episode 67 of Aladdin is titled Eye of the Beholder. And I will read you the plot description, then I'll tell you how it ends, which is crazy. Which is Mirage, who in the world of Aladdin is like basically there's Mirage, and then there's like like basically she's the devil, and then there's like a god figure, and they frequently like put Aladdin through tests like Job. It's basically how it works. But Mirage puts Aladdin's love for Jasmine to the ultimate test. She disguises herself as a peddler woman and gives Jasmine a lotion that will transform her into something more worthy of her man, because Jasmine has, even it's like in I won't spoil the joke, so I'll say, but I think you know what I'm talking about. Even Jasmine feels insecure about her beauty, when she puts the lotion on, she becomes like a snake woman, like a naga type of thing. And Aladdin goes on this epic quest to save her, but he fails. And that's the thing where it's at the end, he's like, I'll love you anyway. He embraces her, and she poisons him by accident because she has barbs on her hands. And the answer he discovers is that there's still a bit left of the lotion, so he turns into a snake person too. And it's very romantic. And then the god figure is you failed, Mirage. Their love is still stronger than your evil. And they get turned back into humans. But I just remember being very scary to me also. Where I was like, oh no, she's doomed type of thing.
That is nice. I really like it when I'm glad that they went there on that one.
It's nice that Aladdin and Jasmine are. That was the other thing I remember that was nice about the Aladdin show, was Aladdin and Jasmine, their love was never in doubt on that show. That was the whole thing, where it was you're so used to them doing a show based off a movie where it's it's Little Mermaid, Little Mermaid and Hercules set it before they meet their love interests, The Emperor's New Groove, it's they meant a love interest for Cusco to be a will they or won't they. But you're just used to it being well, will they or won't they? And then in Aladdin, it's nah, Aladdin and Jasmine are tight. You can't mess with that. And it was nice. Have you ever seen Cinderella 3, though? Because I am always curious about it.
Cinderella 3? No.
People tell me it's a masterpiece. People do. I mentioned that earlier. People tell me it's legitimately a good movie. I've heard people say to me, seriously, Cinderella 3 is better than the original, which has me very fascinated to check it out, because it is the type of plot I like. The plot is that the evil stepmom steals the fairy godmother's magic wand, time travels back in time, and makes an alternate reality where the glass slipper fit onto one of the stepsisters, and Cinderella is thrust into this new reality that's Back to the Future 2, where it's her man is married to someone he doesn't love, and she has to figure out a way to fix it. But also I think the stepsister has a redemption arc too, where it's this sounds very fascinating to me that this is apparently good.
Well, I wonder if maybe we want to... Do you have any more thoughts about planes?
I did have actually something, but I wanted to give that Cinderella 3 shout out to a movie I've never seen.
I'm glad that we could. We talk all the time about DreamWorks, Road to El Dorado and things hey, we love these movies. We don't get to talk about them because we're doing the Pixar run-through.
Wait. Before I continue, can I just quickly run through this the top 5? Oh, never mind. I can't go. So, okay. I was on the Bambi 2 page, and I see that it holds the record for longest time in between original and sequel. And then it's preceded by Fantasia 2000. I was really hoping to click Fantasia 2000 would tell me he held the record before then, but it just stops there.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm sorry. I'm backing my way to planes. You
said it was racist?
I mean, yes, it is racist. I think it's kind of evident in how it's racist.
Yeah, it's this is kind of what I meant when I said it was Cars 2. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Planes is just a parade of stereotypes. I think it's really funny when he talks to the Priyanka Chopra plane, and it seems like there's some kind of Indian music starts playing underneath her dialogue when she starts talking while they're in the hangar or something like that. And it's all right. It's the kind of thing where, I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to defend stereotypes. It's just the kind of thing that is so common. You just see it and you're like, another one. Oh, here it is. And yep, that's kind of what there is about that. Did you see the thing about
how Julia Louis-Dreyfus was replaced in other countries?
Yes, Julia Louis-Dreyfus has been localized 11 times by other people who didn't want to make it about a French-Canadian plane, because apparently that's only a stereotype that Americans understand, but that I didn't understand at all. Why isn't she just French?
You know what also confused me casting-wise? Was John Cleese. They couldn't find a younger British guy?
He should be
Ricky Gervais
old.
wasn't available for these lines. I feel like that's the more logical... Like, it's the eviler choice, but it's the more logical choice at this time. It's just call up Ricky, and he'd be like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. Like,
I enjoyed John Cleese.
Or Nick Frost.
Another person who really goes for it.
I feel like they could have got Nick Frost.
Frost would have been a weird choice for that character, I think.
I don't
Unless
think they
Nick
get
Frost
Simon.
has a really good voice acting resume that I don't know about.
Or they could have got, like, Patty Considine.
I mean, they could have got a bunch of people. They could have got Ray Winstone. They just
Winstone would have been a good pick.
Name any British actor.
Imagine Ray Winstone going, like, what?
Oi.
Oi. Oh, they should have got Peter Seraphonics.
Oh, I don't know him.
Yeah, you do. He, played Darth Maul.
Oh.
But also, he's in the Sing. That's what I was doing. I was trying to do a Ray Winstone, but I instead did the gorilla dad from Sing, where he goes, "What did I ever do to get a son like you?" That's who he played. I was like, they should have got him. Like,
that's not Ray Winstone?
no, that's Peter Seraphonics. I think I'm butchering his name pronunciation, though. I've already told you when I saw Sing 2, I clapped at 2 points, and one of them was when they're like, we need some security to break into the show. And then the gorilla goes, I think I know a guy. And then it cuts to his dad walking in, and he goes, son! And I cheered. Because he hadn't been in the movie yet. And he's the only part I remember the first Sing movie is when he goes, what did I ever do to get a son like you? The other time I cheered was when they played a song from a student film that was not intended to be funny, but since I associated it with a student film, I just burst out laughing. And it's supposed to be this really dramatic moment, but I was like, yes, the song from the student film. And then Halsey sings it.
Good.
Yeah.
I hear Sing is beloved, but I don't know if I'll ever get
I
around
do not
to
like it. But Sing 2 is marginally better. But I'm giving Sing 2 and Planes the exact same grade on Letterboxd.
I also wanted to just point out, I don't know if there's anything to say about it, that Planes has more shots of women's asses than either Cars film. It happens over and over.
Cars 1 has the tramp stamp shot.
I don't even mind that. I feel like it pales in comparison to the ass representation in Planes.
I was gonna say one other thing that I liked about the movie. It's the scene where, well, first, I really like this movie. Is also just one of those things where it's very stereotypical, where Priyanka Chopra, like, you know, has someone visiting her her home in India for the first time, and she goes, where would you like to, like, do you know Dusty's like, do you know where we're cool to go? And she's like, have you seen the Taj Mahal? Like, the most stereotypical Indian place. And he goes, no, what's that? But I was gonna say, I like the bit when they're flying to the Taj Mahal and there's like these like toy planes that I assume are supposed to be birds. I like that, actually. I also actually, that gets so... Sorry, I know you want to wrap up, but I actually remember my main point I wanted to make about the movie that I somehow have not got to, because it popped in my head during that scene, which is, if you want to make this movie a race around the world, that's fine. However, you just did that with Cars 2, right? So the way to make this interesting, and what is there, I think, for Dusty's character, is to make Dusty be someone who's never left his hometown and has now actually experienced the world and realizing how big it is, because he's a plane, he can actually go everywhere, right? He's not like a car.
Yeah.
He can do this race in a couple of weeks, right? Like, that's what's cool about being a plane. And this movie hints at it in that scene and then never really touches it again. And it's very frustrating to me, because I feel like that's what the heart of the Planes franchise should be compared to a Cars, because the Cars movies are about, we gotta stay where we are, right? My job is I run around in circles, and then I stay in Radiator Springs, and that's nice. A Planes movie should be about a plane, because planes, and I know Dusty can't, but again, this is something we're looking at it conceptually, like tear down the entire what this movie is. What should a movie about planes set in the world of Cars, set in World of Cars, not the World of Cars, it's just World of Cars. What should that be? What should World of Cars planes be? And it should be about a plane who can carry his friends around, so it shouldn't be about and it should have scenes where he discovers how wonderful it is to travel and see the world like the Cars world. Mm-hmm. And the movie never touches that outside of the scene in India where he's like, I've never seen the Taj Mahal. And even then it barely touches on it. He's not like, wow, this place is incredible. I never imagined. He never says something like that. Even though it's clear a line like that should be there.
Yeah.
And it's probably because, the next one's about him becoming a rescue plane that just sticks around, I presume. I haven't seen Planes, Fire, and Rescue, but I assume it's mostly set, in the South Northwest,
What the fuck
the
does
California.
that mean?
Well, you know what I mean. I assume it's set where, Colorado or, wherever, I don't know what the specific terms are. I'm so bad at this.
I don't know.
But
You
know
just said the South Northwest.
I don't know what I'm trying to say. Pacific Northwest is what I was saying. I assume it's mostly set in the Pacific Northwest. So I
is
assume
that where Dusty is?
I don't know, but I assume that's where Planes, Fire, and Rescue is set because it's about, a rescue
Wildfires.
plane. Yeah, wildfires. It's about wildfires. I don't know, maybe that's the issue here is, I don't know. It's one of those things where maybe it's just being, it's strung up by what the sequel has to be. But it's just frustrating because I feel like it's so obviously there in the India scene, and it's something that, it's something super generic. It's something that, again, the problem with the movie isn't that it's generic in structure. I think the structure of the film itself is fine. It's just frustrating that it has all these details that don't make any sense.
Yeah.
And they don't add up to anything.
When you say details, I think the payoff of the travel is the travel. I think that, speaking of details that don't add up to anything. Yeah. It's funny that Planes and Planes 2 kind of are in the reverse order of Cars and Cars 2. One is international and one is local, and then Planes reverses that. And
yeah, but in Planes 2, I assume he becomes like an action hero because he's saving people.
I'm curious about that. How do they make it more action-packed?
I'm curious about it too because I don't know how it's a happy thing that he's because I assume it's something where it's he can never race again, and that's why he becomes a rescue plane. And I'm how do you jive that with the ending of this? Where it's oh, it was so nice, he's the world champion. Oh, you can never. I guess it's I guess if they made a third Planes, it would be like Creed 3, where it's he has to come back and do a race to defend his title.
He has to train. Well, that's what Cars 3 was about.
Yeah, it's true.
Cars.
That's a good point. I didn't even think about that.
But Cars 3 isn't like Creed 3 because there's not this person who's returned from his past. That's really. Oh my God,
Ed Harris is in Planes too.
Of course.
And Regina King, and Fred Willard, and Jerry Stiller.
This is what I mean. They get all these big names.
Hal Holbrook is in Planes 2. That's crazy to me that Hal Holbrook is in there, honestly.
No, not at all. He's a guy. He's a working actor.
Oh, he should be in a Pixar movie, not in a... Oh, he died. I forgot he died.
Yes, Hal Holbrook can no longer be in a Pixar movie.
I remember wasn't he in Wes Anderson movies?
I don't know.
You know what I'm thinking of? He was in Lincoln.
Did you ever?
I'm mixing him up with Bob Bulba. That's what I was like. Hal Holbrook.
Did you ever in school watch that? This may have been related to what we were reading, and no one else has ever watched it. Did you watch his monologue as Mark Twain?
No, I haven't.
Okay, never mind. But Hal Holbrook.
It's a big part of his wiki page.
Yeah, and it's recorded, so anyone can check it out. Anyway, by the way, there is also a doping scandal in Planes.
Yes,
that Brad Garrett goes on about.
Sinbad comes in to give us some exposition about it.
No one remembers who Sinbad was called.
I mean, the only character with a memorable name besides Dusty is El Chupacabra, just because he's the most stereotype of all the stereotypes in the movie.
Yeah.
Sinbad's character is Roper.
Ah, okay.
They should have put Ebert in the movie.
Well, do we have anything more to say about Planes?
No.
Okay, great.
It's a Planes movie. It is
about planes.
What we expected it to be. So
I was amazed reading the reviews of this because, of course, we mentioned that it has a
25%. I was curious what Planes 2 responds. Sorry, go on. I was just curious what Planes 2 is marginally better reviewed.
I just think people are so nice to these movies, and everyone says you can put it on for your kids, and it's not going to mess them up. And I don't know if it's not going to mess them up, but everyone was really nice to Planes. But for us seeing it's...
Have you ever looked at an Illumination movie on Rotten Tomatoes?
I don't know if I've ever seen an Illumination movie.
Well, good. We're not doing that as a sequel show. I was saying
the one sequel show that won't happen.
Yeah, I always like alluding to like I was actually doing that on the Snub Club we recorded yesterday. I alluded to like what season 2 of the Snub Club would be. I'm like, well, season 2 of Looking for the Ocean would be we run for all the DreamWorks movies, and I said that's not obviously true. Like we're not going to do a season 2.
I only think people would love it if we did things like The Road to El Dorado.
Well, I think if we did DreamWorks, we'd have to do.
We can't like.
I think
we
if we do anything after this, we should do something where it's. And again, this is so far off. Eventually, we'll be caught up though, and when we're caught up, we should do something where it's like, oh, we watched like every one of this studio's movies, or oh, we will watch like every Scorsese movie, where something where it's like a little more, its own thing. We'll run the franchises like we're gonna do. With possibly with a future miniseries that we still don't know if we're going to do it or not, but
oh yeah,
we'll run franchises maybe.
Yeah, we'll do Looking for the Scorsese, Looking for the DreamWorks.
I actually do think the DreamWorks is the actual follow-up answer and only the movies, not like anything else. Man, well, it's also like it's going to be a while away till we catch up, whatever that means.
Yeah. Well, here at Looking for the Ocean, lots of people like to give films things. They give them thumbs up, they give them star ratings, they give them number reviews out of another number. We don't like to do that. We like to actually give the film something, like you'd give a gift or a physical object. Now, Danny, I don't know if you have something in the tank, but I do.
You go first, because I have an idea, but I need to look at someone's Wikipedia page before I give it.
Okay, mine's going to be long, relatively long.
Okay. Oh, dang, Priyanka Chopra's wiki page is so long. Sorry.
It's Priyanka Chopra's Wikipedia page. Well, you know how in olden times you could give a gift to some older relative by having your young children sing a song or something like that, or do some kind of performance? I would like to give that to Planes, because I enjoyed the voice performances. And I went off somewhere in this episode, and it reminded me of some lines that I really enjoy. So now I want to do a little performance of some lines that I enjoy for the movie Planes. Hey everybody, so what happened here is I gave myself a little gift, and I read and performed the entire transcript of the 2-minute-long Atlantis: The Lost Empire trailer. Danny hated it, and upon re-listening, I don't think it's very good, so just letting you know that happened.
I want to say, before I give something away, that you bring up Atlantis made me remember the actual counterpoint I wanted to defend myself with during that Atlantis discussion. May I quickly do it? It's not going to be trashing Atlantis. It's not actually going to be trashing Atlantis.
Yes.
I think the reason Treasure Planet actually stuck with me way better. I never watched Atlantis, so inherently it's going to stick. But the other reason I have some fondness for Treasure Planet is it has that Goo Goo Dolls song that epitomizes middle school. It's just I'm still, you know what I mean. I'd sing it right now, but I don't want to rip you off.
Yeah.
But that song in and of itself is that's some nice teenage angst vibes that is very satisfactory that Atlantis doesn't have. So I'm gonna ask you, and you're gonna say yes because there's no reason you're gonna say no that I'm not allowed to do this after you just read dialogue for 2 minutes. But instead of giving it something, can I take away something from it? And by that,
sure.
It's giving something to Priyanka Chopra, which is that I'm going to remove her from this movie. So that way she can make her Hollywood debut with her TV show that lasted 3 seasons on ABC that I remember did pretty well for them. And that's so that way she can have her, and that can have now her Hollywood debut buzz. And so now she premieres with Quantico instead of Planes. I think that's a better thing for her career. Well, I don't actually think it would change her career that much. It'd just be a nicer thing to have, this was my Hollywood debut, for her, not Planes. It was Quantico. I think that's nice. I'm going to do that for her. And do that for Planes, too, so it doesn't have that... So it doesn't have to be, have an asterisk next to it for trivia, Where it's someone famous made a debut here. I feel wait, I can say one other thing, though, really quick. Can I? And then you can do the transition.
Yeah.
I just feel it's also going to be nice to people in the future who have to do trivia. And they go what was Priyanka Chopra's Hollywood debut? Everyone's going to guess Quantico and get it wrong. So I might as well let the Jeopardy answer actually be Quantico.
Good call. Well, Danny, just as Dusty Crophopper will reappear in Planes, Fire, and Rescue, we're going to reappear in something, aren't we?
Yes. We're going to reappear in... by the way, side note... Sorry, this is going to lead into me telling what we're doing next. But did the end of this movie take place in Radiator Springs? Because I called it something else, and it really threw me off, even though it had, like, the Radiator Springs, like, mural type of thing. It's like they're racing through the canyons, and there's, like, the canyon that's shaped like a car, which is kind of like what Radiator Springs has. I don't know. It really threw me off, because they also then refer to it, like, as a certain desert. And it's like, what? I thought that was Radiator Springs. But anyway. Next time, we're going to talk about something that really collides our last two episodes together with Monsters U and Planes, and that's we're going to talk about Party Central, which was not the DVD release short for Monsters U. Very interesting release plan on Party Central. And then also we're going to talk about the final Cars tune ever made, which is the Radiator Springs 500.5.
Great.
Good. Yeah?
Looking for the Ocean is produced by Mark Young and Danny Vincent.
The show is edited by Mark Young.
Our original artwork was designed by Sarah Knopf.
You can follow us on social media at Facebook at Looking for the Ocean, Instagram at Looking for the Ocean Pod, and Twitter at Pixar Journey. And on our website, lookingfortheoceanpixar.podbean.com.
You can follow me on markyoungperformer.com, and that has my socials too. My Instagram is myounginsta.
You can follow me, Danny, at Blink, it's a letterbox, and listen to my other podcast, The Snub Club. We talk about the movies with the most Oscar nominations and no wins.
We'll see you next time.